Joining us right now to talk more about this is Professor from Rollins College, Ted Gornell. It's always great to have you. Thanks for being here. And he's a communications professor, so it's really kind of perfect, right? We're talking about personal space. You know, a lot of people are talking about this, and what happens when a story like this makes big national headlines is we start to take a closer look at ourselves and how we interact with other people. And are we making people uncomfortable? Yeah. Don't you find that too?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there are some real issues with this story, and I think that we were talking before, you really nailed it when you said that this is not so much about what you intend,
right,
but what people receive. The thing is that the reality of body language is that it's cultural. Every family is different, every community is different, the North and the South are different, every country is different. In Japan, you don't really touch if you don't know somebody really well, and sometimes even if you do know them well. In Latin America, many places in Latin America, it's always hugs and kisses and close. And so we have to be careful about judging other cultures that way, and certain families are very touchy and certain families aren't. But at the same time, we do live in a world where certain people encounter unwanted touches and sometimes very aggressive or violent touches often, and women are one of those groups.
Sure.
And so I think somebody like Biden has to really think about, okay, thinking about who these people are, doesn't matter who I am and what I've done, might this possibly be misinterpreted? Maybe I should make sure to ask permission to slowly go in and discuss
Which is an awkward thing anyway, can I, but it is okay to say, can I give you a hug, right?
Exactly.
It's okay to say, hey, I'm a hugger, is it okay?
Exactly,
yes.
Right? I mean, in one case, somebody is saying, I want Biden to apologize for, holding my hands and touching my forehead with his forehead when he was commiserating with her about assault. And she said, well, that felt weird to me. And of course, for him, it was communicating sympathy.
Sure.
And so this is a challenge, and this is the way we have to think about personal space, is that it's totally determined by the individual, which means that we have to constantly negotiate these things, and we do that only through communication. We have to talk to people.
We talked about what Nancy Pelosi had said, and one of the things she talked about was it's not how it's intended, but it's received. And she said the other thing I thought was interesting, she said that treat every person like you have a cold and I have a cold. and I thought that was interesting, because it's things you don't think about. And she said, I'm a straight arm person. I reach my hand out, and this is how that person knows this is what I want to receive in return. Yeah. But I do think that we find ourselves sort of in a situation, too, where we feel restrained, too, because I think people will say, well, gosh, I'm a loving person and I want to express that, and now I feel like I can't.
If you do business negotiations in South America or many parts of the Middle East, many parts of Europe, and you are cold that way, end of business negotiation, right? The same way with a friendship, with a family. And so we have to be very, very careful about projecting our feelings onto others, whether that's we don't want to be touched or we do. And I think that part of it is really our responsibility to come forward and make it clear, at least non-verbally, what we want and don't want. At the same time, these things have been systemically abused, often by men against women.
Right.
And so I think certainly in this day and age, but honestly forever, men need to recognize that that's the case, particularly in the U.S., and we need to go, you know what, maybe we should ask permission just in case this person doesn't want this kind of contact. But again, it's fuzzy, right? Well, what about a touch on the shoulder?
Yes,
What about,
where do you draw the line?
What about a long handshake?
Yeah.
What about extended eye contact?
Thank you.
Exactly.
We so appreciate you. Ted Gornell is from Rollins College. Thanks for being with us
Always
this morning.
Good to see you.
Such great advice for all of us. All right, 9:38 right now, and we're going to send it over to Bob, right? Hey, Bob.